We are tuned in to fitness and consciousness. Today's episode is called Path Notes of the Skeptical Mystic. Now, I've never referred to myself as a mystic. I did come up with that name. It's been years ago. I started a Facebook group and then I deleted it. And the idea is, just what it sounds like. I've been studying, you'd say, mysticism and a lot of the esoteric ways since I was a little kid. I'd be maybe like 8 years old, and I'd go to my grandma's house, and I'd be looking through her encyclopedias, looking up like ghosts and all kinds of, is that real? And I would watch what she would call the spookies, the scary TV shows that came on kind of late at night. And it might be like Sammy Terry, Elvira. And those were like, well, I guess they were like more like the hosts. They're not so much in the shows as they were like hosts of these other, scary shows that were coming on. And I just always wondered, like, well, what was real? What was, like witches? Or is that real? Or, okay, if so, like what part of it is real? And something that I've was kind of hesitating to say, I don't know why it's so weird for me, but I've only told, I think, one other person. But when I was a kid, like 7 years old, I don't know how old exactly, but I used to, when I would go to sleep, I would, like, I guess, pray to God, or to use my energy when I'm sleeping to help other people around the world. I don't know where I got that idea. I don't think I got it from anywhere, except that was just what I was thinking of at the time. I'd be laying in bed in my room, and I could look out my window into the tree out front, and I could see like the Smurfs in the tree. And I didn't think they were like really Smurfs in the tree, but the leaves and the shadows, and it looked like Smurfs and stuff going on in the tree. But these are the things that I would kind of I would have going on, and I would just ask that God use my energy when I'm sleeping to, help out whoever needed it. I didn't have an idea of exactly how that worked, but I figured if there was any God listening, he'd be able to figure it out. Part of the skeptical mystic is, just what it sounds like. I'm really skeptical, so I can like look up the craziest stuff, and I can kind of like even sort of in a way believe the craziest stuff, but I'm also very skeptical of all of it. It's like if someone is a great yogi, and maybe they can, read about these Tibetan stories, and these monks that they could pretty much learn to fly through the mountains, and I can believe that. I can also believe that that's not true also. So it's like I kind of have a thing where I don't have to believe it, and I don't have to not believe it. It's just, it's there. And whatever the truth is, I'm cool with that. I'm not like firmly not believing, and then if it came out to be true, then, oh, I was wrong. Or I'm not like, oh yeah, people can fly, man, seriously. And then find out, oh, that's actually not true. And then I'm, wrong in that way also. But there's what I've seen over my years is there's some stuff that just defies our common everyday Western logic. And there were like times I would have this question from my jujitsu teacher. and this is more than one occasion. This is many times over the years. And my jujitsu teacher, he started teaching in Indianapolis it was like either 1967 or 1969, traditional Japanese jujitsu, Zen. We did Zen meditation every class, 10 minutes at the end. And I would have some kind of question because I'm reading all this esoteric stuff, and on many occasions, before I would have the chance to even ask, he would answer that question. And it would be something pretty obscure, something very specific about something obscure. And at the time, at the end of the class, he would just answer my question, even though I never said it out loud. A lot of stuff like that. When I've never really been into gurus, but I've read a lot about a lot of them and read their books. And what I've had with my jujitsu teacher it's pretty amazing. I also have some resentment. I won't get into that. It's nothing that well, I'll just leave it at that. I'm not going to get into that right now. But one of I guess you could sort of call him a guru, is Ram Dass. Ram Dass was Richard Alpert, and he was teaching psychology at Harvard in the 60s. And he had all the, bunch of assistants, and he had all these things going on, and he had all these people telling him that, oh, he's so great, and he's getting more and more positions and more clout and more. But he seemed to think something was missing, and then he met Timothy Leary, who had this little office more like a closet, and he introduced him to psilocybin and LSD. And then Ram Dass ends up going to India and finding his guru, Ramana Maharshi. And then he came back to the United States, and he's back and forth many times, and he's done he did over 400 acid trips, and who knows how many of whatever other things he was taking. And so when he was in India and he was coming back here, he had already lost his position at Harvard. It had to do with giving everybody a bunch of acid and ordering a bunch. I think he ordered like $500,000 of LSD or something like that on the school's budget. Something like that. I'm not sure. I could have that little detail wrong, but he got removed from that position because he wasn't. But he wasn't fitting that way anymore, anyways. Because even though he was supposed to be the one who knew, he's at the Harvard psychology professor. He's like, I really don't know what it's all about. I study all these books. I'll study for 12 hours to do a lecture. I'm reading through these books, and then I read it. I say this thing out in front of the class, and then the class writes down what I said. And then it's like, what sense does that make? I read some books, and then I tell them what I read, and then they write it down. And this is what we're doing. So he goes to India and find his guru, and when he's planning to come back to the United States, he says that he wants to get a job as a chauffeur. To go from Harvard psychology professor to, I want to be a chauffeur. And he said the reason why he wanted to serve people. And while he was waiting for people, he wanted to read holy books. Well, when I'm reading about him, I was driving a cab and waiting on people, and I'm listening to his audio books, and I'm listening to I'm reading his, whatever you call those other books now, the ones with paper, made out of paper, those kind of books. So I'm reading and I'm listening, And I'm doing what he says he wants to do, be a chauffeur and read holy books. And driving a cab was never like my dream job. I started out as a personal trainer in 1999. I was 20 years old, and I was doing exactly what I wanted to do for a living. And I got out of it. I've told that story on the show before, but I had this other job, and I lost my job, and I was, paying like $200 a week for child support, and I needed a job where I wasn't going to get laid off anymore. And driving a cab, you could work all the hours you want, and you could make some good money as long as you worked a lot of hours. And so that's what I did. And then I got back into training about 3.5 years ago. But when I was driving, so like part of it's like, how am I driving a cab? I'm a very knowledgeable trainer, but here I am just driving around. But the people that I got to meet it was really amazing. And so I got to also do my practice when I was driving. And, like Ram Dass starts this one talk. I think it was one of the talks when he was first coming back from India, like late 60s, early 70s or something like that. And he gets up to talk and he says, it's not right for me to get up here and think that I'm going to teach you something that you don't already know. So the way to think about it is we're just having a heart to heart. And so that's kind of how I'm thinking about this show, The Path Notes of a Skeptical Mystic. I think I'm going to end up writing a book, and I'm going to talk about some of my own personal practices and experiences. But it's also going to be a part of this show, which I've already talked about a lot of experiences that were very esoteric, strange things that have happened, but I'm opening that even more. And so the heart to heart, I practice what's called the microcosmic orbit, and you may be familiar with that, but it's basically you run the energy up your spine, and then it comes down the front of your body. It's all inside, but basically it goes up the back and down the front. And people would get in the cab, and I would have people, a lot of these people had, I'm taking them to their cancer treatments. We had a lot of medical accounts. I'm taking people to their cancer treatments. I'm taking them to their dialysis. And I get to see these people. I get to know these people. And so what I would do is I would try to connect my heart to theirs. I would visualize like a stream of energy, like a cord that went from my heart to theirs. And I would also try to connect my microcosmic orbit to theirs. So that would look like kind of like a figure eight. So it goes up my spine. It's like up my spine and down down the front, but also like connecting to theirs. So it's kind of like makes it kind of look like a figure eight of energy. You could imagine that. But also a stream of energy going from my heart to theirs. And there was some interesting things that happened when I would do this, and I'm not telling people that I was doing this, but I picked up this older black man in like South Broad Ripple, and for those of you in Indianapolis, you know where that is, and I think he was like at his girlfriend's house or something like that, going to see his lady friend, and he was, I don't know if I said it, but probably like 70 something. And I pull up and I see her helping him out. and she helps him in the car. And he'd been drinking a lot, and it was during the day. And a lot of times, if well, I'll stick on the story. It was during the day, and so he gets in the car and he's kind of like slumped over, and um, they're she's just kind of helping him in, and she gets out, and he's slumped over, and so I do the thing. I'm connecting my heart to his, and then he perks up. He goes, "I feel a lot better all of a sudden." I'm like, okay. And so I find out where he's going, and I take him. He lived on this place, like kind of northwest side of Indianapolis, and I'm pulling into his up to his apartment, and his turned out to be his granddaughter, but she sees him in the cab, and she comes up and she's like, "What'd you do, Grandpa?" And she said it lovingly. She wasn't. Um, when I made eye contact with her, it was like we both knew. We both saw that we both something. I don't know how to explain it, but we were both recognized each other as a heart. Maybe I don't know. I didn't really think that part through before I was saying it, but we just kind of recognized that we both knew, and I asked if she wanted me to help him up, and she didn't need me to, and she really didn't. And but that was pretty amazing to go from he was like slumped over in the car, do the heart thing, and he perks perks up, and I feel a lot better all of a sudden. And I would do that a lot. And there was a guy. I get this call, and it was South Broad Ripple area again. So um, I pull up and I'm waiting, and I'm getting impatient. It's been like a minute, and sometimes driving the cab, I get really frustrated. I mean, to be just stuck in the car for a long time. I mean, oh, it's not that big of a deal, but sometimes it got very uncomfortable, very cramped. I want to move around, uh, and time is money. So I pull up to this house, and this guy is taking forever coming out. Minutes, 3 minutes. How dare he keep me waiting for? I mean, I don't really know how many minutes it was, but all in all, it wasn't very many. But at the time, I'm frustrated, and so it comes out, him and his girl, and he's wearing like sweatpants and stuff. Like, he didn't dress up for me. Like, God, I have this like stuff going through my mind, and I'm just frustrated. And they eventually get out to the car. Maybe I was waiting 5 minutes, and they get in. I'm like, okay, where are you going? And then they're going to the hospital downtown. Okay. Well, it turned out that guy got shot a couple days ago, a couple days before then. And so all that frustration, all that stuff that I had, and I didn't try to put it on to them that I was frustrated anyway. When they got in, I'm cool. Where are you going? Here's where we are. But up until that moment, I'm frustrated. And even when they get in, I'm still like finally frustrated. And I'm, as an observer, observing myself, I see this whole thing going on anyway. But oh, he got shot a couple days ago. They got mugged walking home from the store. They got tied up with the guy, and he got shot in the stomach. And so all my frustration was like, oh, okay. So I did my heart thing, and we end up like talking and stuff, and on the way to the hospital. But there was a lot of times like that where I kept learning that lesson, where I'd be frustrated about something, and then I'd look over, and there's somebody in a wheelchair with no legs, and they're crossing the street, busy street, or they're doing whatever it is that they're doing with no legs. I'd be frustrated, and somebody gets in the car and they're going to their cancer treatment. I'd be frustrated, somebody gets in the car, they're going to dialysis. I'd be frustrated, somebody gets in the car, they're going to their treatment. And one woman was on the phone and she's like talking to her sister or something. She's like frustrated with her sister, like not helping, because like this woman in my car had kids. I think one of them had like special needs, something like that. And she's trying to get things arranged for when she's dead. How to make sure her kids are taken care of when she's dead. Because that's not far from now. She might not be around now. This was years ago that this happened. So she's frustrated because she's trying to make sure her kids are taken care of when she's dead. And I was frustrated because I didn't really have a reason to be frustrated. So I kept like wondering, like, why am I in a cab? I drove a cab for 7 years. And, you know, some people kind of like look down at the job for some reason. But you might be surprised what cab drivers actually do. There's some that drive, like some of these guys that drive like the wheelchair vans, and not everybody has control of their bowels. Not everybody has. Some people are peeing their pants. And this is going on in the cab and in the wheelchair cabs, and you're taking somebody that's just a complete mess, and so they're helping them out. They have steps, so they can barely walk, but their house they have a bunch of steps. That cab driver is going to help them up those steps. There's a lot that cab drivers do that people may not understand. There was a guy that I picked up one time. Picked up a guy and his son, and he was going to pick up his car from the shop. And so he's kind of like explaining to his son, you know, what's going on, you know, like. And he said, you know, his son like asked a question about, you know, just like, you know, what's going on right now, this little boy. And this guy was like talking about like what a cab driver is. He's like, cab drivers have a very important job. And he's talking about how, you know, getting people where they need to go. And he made it seem like it was pretty cool to hear him say that, like that. And so he's, you know, not like stay in school, son, or you'll end up being a cab driver. You know, it was like cab drivers have a very important job. And a lot of blind people understand how important cab drivers are. Now maybe times are, you know, also include like the Uber drivers and stuff, but blind people can have, there's accounts and stuff that sometimes they get discounts on their cab fare, and there's stuff. But, you know, getting blind people where they need to go, get them to work, having a cab driver that they can count on to be at their house in the morning to take them to work. on time. You know, it might not seem like a big deal to you, but it's a huge deal to them. Uh, there was a lot that I learned from driving the cab and the people that I met. And, you know, there's like, I call them like the dominoes. Like we hit these like dominoes. You know, you set the dominoes up in all these different shapes and stuff. And it, like these little decisions that we make, these things that happen. Oh, I lost my job. And then, well, I actually, then I ended up getting this other job, which was even better, you know, in ways. And then I met this person who connected me with this, and then this great thing happened. And that wouldn't have happened if that didn't happen, if that bad thing didn't happen. So sometimes, you know, life makes more sense in reverse. We look back and like, oh, I'm really glad I lost my job. That was actually very, very fortunate. It seemed like unfortunate at the time. But I like Ram Dass. This is from a book that he wrote, The Only Dance There Is. I'm not sure if that's backwards. I show it on the. For those of you who don't know, the show is also on YouTube. I know most people just listen on iTunes and a bunch of different audio only sources, but there's the Fitness and Consciousness YouTube channel. But anyways, this book is from Ram Dass, The Only Dance There Is, Talks at the Menninger Foundation, 1970, and Spring Grove Hospital, 1972. You can look around and see that the universe is being kept at the plane it is and isn't going up in smoke at the moment, because when you get on the bus now and then, there's a bus driver who's so high and beautiful that everybody that gets on his bus feels better when they get off the bus than when they got on the bus. He's just driving the bus. He just happens to be Buddha driving a bus. He is not going around saying, I'm appearing in town hall, I'm Buddha. See, he's just being Buddha. He's just doing what Buddha does. And you begin to realize that the earth is full of very high beings who are constantly spreading this other force, you know, creating this other kind of consciousness. You know, I didn't want to drive cab forever. I kind of ran out of needing these experiences. It got to be so frustrating for me. You get so burnt out on driving, and the way that it worked, I worked for, drove for Yellow Cab, independent contractor, but it was at Yellow Cab. So I paid Yellow Cab. They didn't pay me. And then whatever I made is what I made. So there were days I'd make $100, days where I'd make 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700. I've made 1,000 in a day. And then there were times where you work all day and just it seems like one thing after another goes wrong. You don't make hardly anything. And then if you want to take Saturday off, that's fine. You don't even have to ask. You're an independent contractor. You don't have to ask anybody. But you still have to pay the cab lease for that day. So if you want to take a day off, it's going to cost you. You can do it. It's going to cost you. So it got to be where I was just, and then I got back into training. And so driving the cab, it was cool because I could have my clients at all these weird times throughout the day. Just get back in the cab and I'm back to making money, driving the cab, got a client, got a class. And so it worked really well. And then it got to be where I had too many clients and classes to making the cab, to make the cab profitable. But I wasn't making as much as I would have needed to, or wanted to, from just training to quit the cab. So I was like in this weird position, but as long as I put my hours in, it worked out. Just wake up earlier, stay out later, make sure I'm working all the days of the week, and it worked out. But it got to be where it'd be like, say, Sunday. So Sunday was our free day. We didn't have to pay a lease on Sunday. So whatever you made on Sunday, it was all profit. like minus your gas money, but it's all profit on Sunday. And so I'd get out and I'd have my cup of coffee, and I'm like, okay, I'm cool. It's going to be fine. I'm going to sit in the, I'm just going to drive. I'm going to work for about 8 hours, and it's going to be fine. And I'd get in the car, and I'd turn the tablet on, and I'm waiting for my call and waiting for something to happen. And I'd start getting so frustrated that I would just have to get out. I'd be like, so I just cramped, start getting like claustrophobic, and my back would start hurting in my hips and just start getting angry. And I can't believe I hate driving an effing cab, and all this stuff would happen. I would just have to get out, and I'd get out of the cab, and so I wouldn't make money that day. And then it was so stressful. And then my last main like girlfriend that I had, she really encouraged me to get out of it. So I was kind of like stuck in this rut. I mean, I had a lot of things going good with training and everything. So I had a lot of cool things going on, but I was like stuck in this cab. So I'm thinking, well, all I have to do is work more and I'll make more money. Other jobs, you work between this time and this time. It's all you can make. And if I just drive, I can wake up earlier. I can stay out later. I can work 7 days a week. I'm a go-getter. I'm not a lazy guy. I can do this and I can make all this money. But then I would go up to the car and I couldn't stand being in there for 5 seconds. So she really encouraged me. She really helped me in a bunch of ways to just think differently. Like, I actually don't have to drive it. And then in the meantime, like my child support got lower because my daughter turned 19, and so that cut off that much that I had to pay, and it got cut in half, and so that helps. And so a little less stress that way. And then she just helped me to really think different and gave me the opportunity to do something different. And then but the kind of the thing is like bringing your own weather. So I thought about calling the show like "Bring Your Own Weather Hero" is what I was thinking of calling this show. But anyways, so bring your own weather is something that my jiu-jitsu teacher would say. And for instance, there was this woman that would come into class, and if she was having a bad day, she'd be telling everybody about her bad day. If she was having a good day, she'd be telling everybody about her good day. And this is a traditional Japanese dojo. And the teacher is like 60 something, 70, whatever. And he told her that you don't have a right to bring your mood. And he would say, like, you bring your own weather. And for instance, it was when I was driving a cab, I picked up this woman. She was about probably 70 years old. And she gets in the car and she's like, I just can't believe how nice it is outside. And it was raining, and I was like, yeah, it is really nice out, isn't it? She's just like talking about how nice it is outside, and it's raining. And so I drop her off and I go into Whole Foods to get some Whole Foods. And there was these two, like probably like 30-year-old women talking. And they're like, oh, it's so nasty outside. Oh, the weather is so nasty. Oh, it's the same weather. The 70-year-old woman is just talking about how nice it is. And then these two 30-year-old women are talking about how nasty that same weather is. It's the same weather. It's still raining. It's the same thing that was going on for the 70-year-old. The 70-year-old says it's really nice out, and the 30-year-olds are talking about how nasty it is. And so it's like you bring your own weather. So at my, what I call my job, so I work at this place from 5 a.m. to 1 p.m. and I call it my job. I work on this machine, and then the afternoons and evenings I do have my clients and classes. Sometimes the main machine operator, he'll get a little bit moody, and he has a lot more responsibility than I do. He has a lot more like pressure and uh, stuff on him, but he'll get like moody, and so he was like barking at me about something. And he's not my boss. He's more like he's just the main operator, so he's the one calling the shots. So if he says something, I do it, but he actually doesn't have a real authority over me. But he's kind of like barking at me, and like there's so I tell him there's no reason for you to ever talk to me like that. And I say it just like I said it now. I didn't like start barking at him. It's like there's no reason for you to ever talk to me like that. It's like if I need to know something, just tell me. And he'd like bark a little bit more, and like there's no reason for you to ever talk to me like that. If there's something I need to know, just tell me. And then so he goes off, and then he comes back, and he's like, I'm sorry if you thought I was yelling at you, which is not quite as enlightened as we would prefer, right? But he at least recognized it. And then that happened again, and he came up to me at the end of the day. He's like you handled that the right way, and if I'm being a jerk, just say stop it, something to that effect. I don't remember exactly what he said, but he recognized it. And I think he's going through a divorce, and so he has some stuff going on outside, so he's bringing his mood with him. I'm not beyond these kind of things, but normally when I get that place doesn't stress me out at all. I do if something like goes wrong or something, I might like start to like cuss like oh, but even before I get the word out, I'm already back to cool. Like oh, this is just this little thing happened and it's already over. It's not. I'm pretty good at moving on from that now, and I think that the cab was really good training for that. And we can get frustrated at our position. I'm somebody that has huge goals. My goal when I first started this podcast was I want it to be, and I made it known. I posted it. My goal is for this to be the best show on the planet for fitness and consciousness related subjects. The best one. And so when I'm organizing like workshops with other trainers, when I'm whatever it is that I'm doing, I always want just excellence. I have like all these big goals, and so like once something gets accomplished, then I already have more things that I'm trying to work on. So I'm not often, well, kind of yes and kind of no, but not often in this state of just like contentment. But I have this buddy of mine, Sam, and he says if you get frustrated with where you are, look back 2 years to see what you have accomplished. And most people aren't thinking in this timeline. But if I look back 2 years and see everything that I've done in that 2 years, I'm really quite pleased with it. I still want more. I still want to do more things. I want the show to spread more. I want like my classes to get even better, and that's better. Like me actually being a better coach, me doing more that's like myself. So I think that's what a lot of people respond to. We don't think like, if you like Dave Matthews, you don't like Dave Matthews band because, oh, they sound a lot like this other band. You like Dave Matthews Band because he is unique, and that's what you like. I mean, that's how most people be, right? We like Michael Jordan because he's unique. We like uh, we like things that are unique. Pink Floyd. It's not like, man, they play that one song just like that other band that I like, and that's perfect. No, Pink Floyd is its own thing. There's no other band like Pink Floyd, and so we like that. And how can we get our true selves out of ourselves? Uh, Here's a poem. I just sent it to this friend of mine. I had dinner with her tonight, and we were talking about what's going on in our business stuff. She teaches yoga, but when I got home, I started to prepare for the podcast, and I got this book about Tagore. It's called The Essential Tagore. It has like a biography and poems and stories and everything in it. If no one listens to you, if no one listens to your call, go your own way. If no one talks to you, O unfortunate one, if everyone turns his or her face the other way, if everyone is frightened into silence, make sure that you open your heart and say whatever it is that you want to say. If people turn their back on you, O unfortunate one, if when you've set out on a distant path, no one looks your way, trampling the very thorns that make your feet bleed, make sure you go your own way. If there is no one to light your path, O unfortunate one, if on a day of storms and showers, doors are bolted on you, then, in the very flashes of lightning, kindle your rib cage and blaze your own way. By Tagore, he was born like 150 years ago or so. I don't think he's alive anymore. Cool if he was, though. I just got that book from the library not too long ago, and been getting some like Rumi and got Tagore, Kabir, got a bunch of different stuff. I have probably no less than 20 books on my table right now, on my kitchen table of things I need to read. Here's one by Kabir. It's from Ecstatic Poems, versions by Robert Bly. The spiritual athlete often changes the color of his clothes, and his mind remains gray and loveless. He sits inside a shrine room all day so that the guest has to go outdoors and praise the rocks. The guest is capitalized. Or he drills holes in his ears. His hair grows enormous and matted. People mistake him for a goat. He goes out into the wilderness areas, strangles his impulses, and makes himself neither male nor female. He shaves his skull, puts his robe in an orange vat, reads the Bhagavad Gita, and becomes a terrific talker. Kabir says, actually, you are going in a hearse to the county of death, bound hand and foot. Actually, you are going in a hearse to the country of death, bound hand and foot. Whatever that means. There was something else from here. Where is it? Let's see. Maybe it was the Rumi one that I was thinking of. I was thinking of having like a random Rumi readings on my on the show. Is that the wrong one? Sorry. Um, the bright core of failure. This is not the one that I was thinking of, but let's read it anyway. Random Rumi readings. The bright core of failure. Sometimes you enter the heart. Sometimes you are born from the soul. Sometimes you weep a song of separation. It is all the same glory. You live in beautiful forms, and you are the energy that breaks form, all light, neither this nor that. Human beings go to places on foot, angels with wings. Even if they find nothing but ruins and failure, you are on you are the bright core of that. Uh, that was not the one that I thought I marked, but I think it worked anyway, didn't it? And even if not, it'll be part of my random Rumi readings. There's something about the poets, and so from Kabir. Kabir lived in 15th century India. Um, so in reading from the back of this version of Kabir's ecstatic poems, versions by Robert Bly. This is on the back cover of it. A weaver by trade, but a poet singer by calling, Kabir lived in 15th century India. His philosophy incorporated various beliefs of both Muslims and Hindus, and later became one of the major inspirations behind Sikhism. Like the work of the poet Rumi, Kabir's verse continues to enlighten and entertain readers the world over. In this collection, legendary poet Robert Bly has made these incredible poems more accessible than ever to the modern reader. Some of the, anyways, that's what it was. So part of my thinking for the show is like being your own hero, and we all have these like stories to overcome. How many good movies that you see are like, yeah, there was this guy and everything went pretty well. I mean, he was born and always had plenty of money, was healthy, and everything went pretty good. Does that sound like a good movie? Or I don't play video games, but like when people talk about like playing their video game on like God mode, where they like their character can't die, they beat the game, but there's no satisfaction in it because you weren't really overcoming anything. So we have to, kind of like be our own hero. And Joe Rogan has a good quote. I meant to write it down, but it's something like, talks about the momentum of good decisions. And when my daughter went to college, when she was preparing to leave, I wrote out 101 quotes, like rules to live by, and it's like inspirational quotes and stuff. And a lot of them I made up, and then I started picking ones from some other people, from Joe Rogan to Dr. Seuss. I had a dream, it was last night, maybe the night before actually, that my daughter was kind of coming down this conveyor belt. And I was getting that book ready for her. And I gave it to her before, but not sure exactly what that dream meant. Like she was kind of like coming down this conveyor belt, almost like at a shopping store, like a store, like you put your stuff on the belt, and then it heads towards the cashier. But it was like I was in the cashier spot, and like once she was going to come up, I was going to give her her book. One of the quotes I put in there twice. I'm not sure this is the one, but one of my things is always capitalize the word love when you say it and write it. When you write it and say it. It's like you otherwise put like, you know. But if you're going to write the word love, capitalize it. If you're going to say it, capitalize it, you see. Then there's other things to capitalize. I'm not going to get into a whole like English thing, but when you write mom, capitalize it, and not just like when you're addressing her by name, by that as her name or something like that. Capitalize mom, capitalize dad, capitalize son, daughter. Write those in. Right, give it a capital letter. So like being your own hero and the momentum of the good decisions and setting these goals for ourselves that are tough. I can't do it right now. But if you work at it, maybe it's in a month, 2 months, 2 years, keep chipping away at it. And then you can pull ourselves out from wherever we are. And then we can help be someone else's hero also. And although it's probably not real healthy to like think of it like that, think of ourselves as a hero. But how can we help somebody? And maybe it's just connecting your heart to theirs. And when I talk about like connecting the hearts, and I'm like concentrating on my energy, going from my heart to theirs, connecting them, it's like a back and forth. I'm not saying that it's because I had like decades of training and now I can do this special thing. You can do it today. All you have to do is try. And it's not so crazy to think. I mean, have you ever made anybody feel better just with your presence? Have you ever made anybody feel worse with just your presence? So what was going on there? So you can do that. And it's like maybe we can get into the more esoteric where there is a literal energetic connection, however esoteric it may be. But if you start thinking that way, you'll become that way. And you'll see the difference. That the examples that I gave, there's more. But I won't get into that. I'm going to start to wrap the show up here. This is a song by the Grateful Dead. It was written by Robert Hunter. The words were written by Robert Hunter and the music by Jerry Garcia. It's one of my favorite Grateful Dead songs. It's called Wharf Rat. Old man down, way down, down, down by the docks of the city. Blind and dirty, ask me for a dime for a cup of coffee. I've got no dime, but I've got some time to hear his story. My name is August West, and I love my pearly baker best, more than my wine, more than my wine, more than my maker, though he's no friend of mine. Everyone said I'd come to no good. I knew I would. Pearly believed them. Half of my life I spent doing time for some other fucker's crime. Other half found me stumbling around, drunk on burgundy wine. But I'll get back on my feet someday, the good Lord willing, if he says I may. I know that the life I'm living's no good. I'll get a new start, live the life I should. All get up and fly away. All get up and fly away, fly away. Pearlie's been true, true to me, true to my dying day, he said. I said to him, I'm sure she's been. I said to him, I'm sure she's been true to you. I got up and wandered downtown, nowhere to go, but just to hang around. I got a girl named Bonnie Lee. I know that girl's been true to me. I know she's been. I'm sure she's been true to me. I will leave it at that. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll see you next time.